Tingles with flyby. Hello, my tinglings. Today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite meals. It's called Cajun Chicken Alfredo. So we're going to start off by getting some water on to boil for the pasta. Takes about a ½ pound or 500 grams of fettuccine. So we'll go ahead and pop that on to the oven. I also need to turn the oven on to 165, which I think is, I don't remember. So now I'm gonna prep the chicken. I got this little bulk pack of chicken, and I have extra chicken in there. It comes with, I think, about 8 in here, so I only need 4 for this recipe. So I'm going to put the other ones in a freezer bag to pop them in the freezer. So we'll go ahead and just bag these little extras into their bag. They're so cutely rolled up. 5. I guess we had 9 in there. Well done. And we'll go ahead and close that up. That good old double Ziploc lock. I can only get Ziploc bags at Costco. And all the other kind of bags like that are really bad. Anyway, this one I am turning inside out so that I can grab in there without having to get my hands chickened up. I did wash them after that other bag. So what we're going to try and do is just basically roll this flat. You can do that with a rolling pin. You can also do it with a pan. That's what I'm going to do here. But yeah, I mean, you can do it against a cutting board, but you can do this like between 2 things of plastic. But I figure if I do it in this bag, it'll be really easy to reuse for each of them. And we'll just kind of push down on there, get it nice and flattened out. That helps it so it cooks evenly. And I use thighs. You can use breasts as well, but I think thigh meat is so much better. And it's slightly cheaper, so pay less for something better. That works for me. So it's a little hard to pop it out without getting chicken on your hands, so just flap it about. And then we'll repeat for the next 3. Oh look, they're already done. So then we're going to take some Cajun seasoning and rub that into our chicken thighs. I used to make my own Cajun seasoning, but it's easier to buy it, as are most things. But anyway, so this has a little bit of spice to it. It's like perfect for me, so it's not super hot, but it's got some spice there. And it's creamy, and it's, oh god, just so yummy. I really can't recommend it highly enough. It's just too yummy, too yummy. So, yeah, you want to go ahead and rub that into the chicken on both sides, so it'll be nice and prepped. It turns into a little bit of a blackened chicken type dealio. spice so we can rub in to the other side of these delicious, delicious chickens. I'm washing my hands right now so that I won't get chicken juice on the Cajun seasoning. And there we go, pouring some on. And then we'll give it a rub-a-dub-dub. Just nice and covered. Really, you just think those thighs are just, happy. Just so happy to be getting covered in this lovely, lovely seasoning. Because they're going to be the prettiest girls at the ball. The yummiest, for sure. This meal is, just so good. Just trying to grab up the extra seasoning so I don't waste any. So this is you end up searing them on one side, and then I'm going to bake them. Well, you sear them on both sides, sorry, and then you bake them. So this is the tray I'm going to bake them on. So, those look good. And there in the back, our pasta is been put in and is boiling. Oh, was boiling. I'm sure it'll return to a boil at some point. Now here we're going to put in about a tablespoon of butter and what's supposed to be a tablespoon of olive oil. But, I don't actually measure, so it's probably a bit more than that. I'd love to see the little bubbling, though, of the butter. Just sizzle, sizzle, sizzle as it sizzles out. There we go. That looks good. I think I did a great job there. I'm very non-measury with most of my cooking. Baking, I'm very precise because it's very important. Because it's chemistry. Well, all of cooking is chemistry. But anyway. So, I want the butter to be melted. You want the oil to be heated so that it's ready to really sear your chicken pieces. You can see them bubbling when we put them on. That's exactly what you're looking for. So, I'll put those down. They should sear on each side for about 1.5 minutes. So don't time me. I don't actually remember how I found this recipe, or where I found it, or where I got it. I remember when. I was definitely in Australia. I think it was probably 2012 or 2013 when I first made it, and it was so good. The chicken bushing is a little bit of work, so I don't necessarily always do that. Just check that pasta. Having been in there only a couple minutes, it still needs a bit more time. Yeah, so just cook your pasta according to the package directions. The only thing is that it does, well, we'll get to that, but we're going to rinse with hot water once it's cooked, because you want the starch to be gone for it. You don't want the extra starch. And it's just sizzling away on our chicken. Slowly blackening that other side. You can just smell it. That Cajun goodness. Oh, so yummy. So yummy. that's a yes. Looks black-ish, black enough. So now we'll sear the other side. Should give that about 1.5 minutes as well. To give us some nice, delicious chicken. Just look at just that little searing side. The black and oh, it looks so yummy. Never has raw chicken looked so good. Since it is still mostly raw. But hey, we won't hold that against it, will we? Well, I know I won't. I can't guarantee what you'll do. This chicken searing is getting to my head, isn't it? It's funny, just the bubbling. You have the pasta bubbling in the back, the butter and oil bubbling in the front. I actually think cooking is an interesting process. I had a thought about that the other day. I'll just like that we have people who cook as their job. We all need food, and cooking is very important for a lot of the foods that we do eat to make them safe to eat. So it makes sense, but it's more so if you actually think about the process of what it is. It's just like heating things. So certain people will stand over a hot stove. Anyway, once these have seared, I'm gonna pop them back onto the tray and then pop them into the oven. And never think about the philosophical importance of cooking. Well, you know I'm going to be thinking about that. But anyway. So, we'll go ahead, pop that into our preheated oven. They say to give it about 10 minutes. My oven is really bad, so I'll give it probably more than that. Probably more like 15. If you have a properly heated oven, I can't really tell you because I've been using this oven so long. It's a really bad oven. But anyway. So now we're going to focus in. This is where you really make the sauce. So we're going to deglaze the pan. I just have a leftover white wine here. This is a Moscato. You can use chicken stocks as well. Those are cubes, but you can use just like a half cup of chicken stock or a half cup of wine. Since I have the wine that I need to kind of use up, I'm going to use the wine. It also gives it just a little nice hint of flavor on there. It's nice with the chicken stock as well. Just depends on what sort of flavor you want. If it's kind of one or the other. So when you pour it onto the pan, I don't think I ever told you, the heat that I put it onto was a number 4 out of 6 on my oven. So we'll keep it on that medium-high heat while we're deglazing. And then the next step is to put some cherry or grape tomatoes, which I usually cut them in half, so they're easier to kind of break apart. So you pop those in, and also some cloves of garlic, but my garlic is nougat, which I realized after I got home from the shops. So it's going to be garlic powder. And I think our pasta's ready, so we'll go ahead and not fail, or fail, not fail, yay. Look, Mom, I did it all on my own. Anyway, so then just need to rinse it with hot water. We're just getting that extra starch off. And yeah, that'll make it really nice and rinsed off. It says to use hot water, but I kind of manipulated around with my hands, so I need it to be not going to burn my skin hot. So that in my book means warm water. So there's a little bit of cold water in there. But this one actually doesn't feel too starchy, so I don't feel like I'm actually doing much, but you know, I'm just gonna keep doing this anyway. And hopefully some starch is getting off somewhere. Now we're gonna prep the tomatoes. Actually got these for 74 cents. 74? Anyway, they were 90% off. 90? I don't know. Very, very cheap. So I was very happy about that. And I got 2 so that I could get extra. So yeah, just gonna cut these in half. You don't have to, but they cook quicker if they're cut in half. And they're easier to kind of smash down if they're in half. So, but the tomato and the wine and the Cajun seasoning. And then it's just creamy and cheesy and whoa. So yeah, I'm getting excited already. You can hear me licking my lips, can't you? So, cut these tomatoes so that we can get them where they belong. Lovely little tomatoes. 35 cents. Even cheaper than I thought. So, yeah, I'll just cut both of these up. The recipe actually calls for grape tomatoes, but I mean, at 35 cents, I couldn't pass that up. So it was 70 cents for both of these, which normally, if I got both of these, it would be over $6. So it's a really good price. Well, it'd be $7 because it's currently 10% of the price. And you can see they're all perfectly good. Just really good tomatoes. And I just bought them today, so. Perfect. This last one, a little sketchy. Going in the compost bin. So now we'll pop the good tomatoes into the pan, having gotten rid of the other one. And here's the garlic powder since I forgot the actual garlic. And now we'll cook our tomatoes. The tomatoes, I kind of have this thing, which I found I really like when I cook this. I didn't have it in the directions, but so I'll kind of stir it around like this, but then what I end up liking to do is turning them all so that the cut side is face down. So I'll just kind of end up flipping them all. Well, I'm not going to flip the ones that are already flipped, obviously. But I kind of have this method for flipping them, which I can't really describe. Hopefully you can tell by watching what I'm doing. I don't know how to say what I'm doing. It works for me, but I don't know if I can teach it. Too complicated a skill. Not. But that way it isn't trying to cook from the skin side, which is the harder side to penetrate. So that it'll cook from the bottom up. And it just really works well like that. So that's what I like to do. So I'll usually get these all flipped and then I just let it sit there for a little while until the tomatoes are softened. Get over. There we go. It's over. So you can see it's now been sitting there for a little while. The way you can tell is that it's time is when you start pushing on them with the back of the spoon. They start to actually mush. But so you can see they're just mushing just a little bit. Giving us a little mush. See? Push. And they mush. Push. Push. Mush. 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 So they all just mush. And that really loosens them up so that the tomato juice is going to get into the sauce. And that tomato is going to distribute very nicely throughout. Obviously, you'll still have like kind of little chunks of tomato, but mainly it's going to be a lot of mush. Mush, mush, mush. Mush, mush, mush. Very mushy. So our tomatoes are almost done being mushed. Just a little more mushing. And you can see the sauce now, instead of just being the wine and that, it's got a little bit less see-through consistency because it's got the tomatoes. So now we're going to take the cream and add that in to our delicious sauce. So this calls for 1.5 cups of cream. I think that's 300 milliliters of cream is what I've actually put in there. No, 3. I don't know. But that's how much I put in. And then I very much just eyeball my salt. And you put a tablespoon of butter in as well. And then we're going to put some pepper in as well. Fresh cracked pepper. The best kind of pepper. And you can see the color is really lightened up because of the cream and looks much more creamy. Who would have guessed? But definitely very creamy and yummy. And we'll stir that around, and you can see our mushed tomatoes mixed in the sauce, kind of letting that butter melt in as well. So you're gonna let that sit for a couple on the heat for a couple minutes until it basically thickens. And so, but my chicken was ready, so I took it out. Again, chicken takes about 10-15 minutes depending on if you have a meat thermometer, use it. Otherwise we're, keep stirring that. You can see it's getting a little bit thicker here. That's what we're really looking for. When it gets a bit thicker, we're going to turn the heat off. But I haven't prepped my cheeses yet, so I'll probably leave the heat on until my cheeses are ready. So we need 1.5 cups of Parmesan and 1.5 cups of Feta. Is that right? I think that's how much it calls for. But I'll show you what I have, and I'll probably use about Otherwise, the feta really dominates. You can use any kind of goat's cheese, really, but feta is usually fairly cheap. So, yeah, I just need to grate my cheese. I get to show you my grater again, which I am such a big fan of. It's a Pyrex grater. It's actually the only current Pyrex item I own. Even though oh, no, I have a veggie bowl. Like one of those things with a top. That one's a Pyrex as well, I reckon. Okay, I lied to you. Sorry, not a good fact. But it doesn't have any. I have to check it, but I'm not going to check it right now. So, this is great. It has a little catcher on the bottom. That's what I love about it. You don't have to have a separate plate. I mean, you still get these little bits falling off, but for me, I can just wipe those off the counter. But I'm not going to wipe a whole pile of cheese off the counter and into a pot, because I'm going to miss a lot if I do that. So, I just get the cheapest Parmesan cheese that I can get. That's in a block, not that really cheap crap. Although you probably could use it. It wouldn't be as good though. And we'll check that. Looks about a cup and a half. But probably a little mounded towards the front, so we'll just need a little bit more at the back. But we're getting there. Almost got the perfect amount of cheese. Yeah, I think that's good enough. So let's put the rest of the cheese back in the fridge. Now our sauce is looking so yummy. And here I put this on. I should turn the heat off, but I haven't. But you should turn the heat off before you put the cheese in to get the best result. So we'll pop the cheese in. Then I'm going to grab the feta as well, so we can get the feta in. So this is the feta I have. I'll show you the little. I'm going to break it in about half. And you can see that's about, yeah, in my hands is everything I'm going to put in. So that's about how much. I think it's 125 grams. It's either that or 150 probably. Because this thing's either 250 or 300 grams. I don't remember the exact size. So just kind of crumble this in. I usually try and make it into small chunks. It doesn't have to be in the smallest chunks, but it is good to get it into smaller chunks so that you don't have it overly dominate in any particular bite. It should melt down still a little bit, but really big chunks are going to have a harder time melting down. So we're just going to go ahead and stir our cheeses in with our nice mushed tomatoes. And of course the rest of the sauce. So that's pretty much the sauce done once we finish stirring it. That is our delicious sauce. You should taste it as well to see if you want to add any salt or pepper, anything like that. There is seasoning on the chicken, so it will get more seasoning from the chicken as well. So you shouldn't need to add any more seasoning or just salt and pepper if you want any more of that. Since there is no salt and pepper on the chicken either, unless you snuck some on your chicken, which I didn't tell you to do. Just kidding. Do whatever you want. You're the one cooking. You're a hero for cooking. You're a hero to me for making this meal. Now invite me over so I can eat it. But there we go. All stirred together. I'm back on track now. So we'll go ahead and pop the pasta in. And then we'll try and stir that in so that it gets a nice little coating. Try and free it from itself. It was sitting there for a few minutes, so it's kind of lumped up a little bit. We'll try and stop it from lumping up so much. And just stir it in. This is actually a really nice time to use a wood spoon. Just because they're straight and not that really curvy that you get with like black plastic ones. So just mix them in, getting the pasta nice and covered, although we're going to mix it in again when we put the chicken in. So this is just a light mixing right now. And then we'll have the official mixing. It's all official. I was just kidding. But I haven't cut the chicken yet, so we better do that. So I'm just going to cut this straight on the pan itself. I just cut it into strips. You can cut it into chunks, but I like it in strips. Even though me and my love both really like the chicken, it still ends up fairly even. It works well. I don't know. Works well for us. Doesn't mean it will for you. Do what works for you. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and get this chicken cut up. And then after that, it all gets added into the pan. Yummy, delicious chicken, joining its pasta brethren, ready to make a delicious meal completed. And then of course we need the final stirring, getting everything together. So you'll actually notice the chicken will get look less black. That's partially because it's coated. It's partially because some of the spice is coming out into the sauce, which is desirable. That's good. So now it's just time to plate up and eat. Goodbye, my tinglings. Thanks for watching.